Hey guys, Brandon for Woozways here. I think this is my 5th or 6th take on this, so I'll try and get it right this time. So today we're going to be talking about sampling. We're going to walk you through the process from here we are in Logic, where I'm going to bounce out this sample, and then we're going to go into MainStage and show you how to set up your sampler instrument, and then how to export it if you want to. I'll show you some other cool stuff on the way. So here we have a sound. It's called New Bright White. It's made up of two ES2 patches that I put together, and then I have effects on each of them through this bus. So they are sending all of their signal to this bus, and then I have all the effects on there. In case you wanted to set this up, try it on your main stage. Which brings me to my first point about why you want to sample. Sampling saves CPU usage. This would with the 2 channel strips, 16 voices each, unison, and all of these effects. I mean, H delay and Valhalla Shimmer are by no means small fries when it comes to CPU usage. So the first thing I should say is sampling allows you flexibility. You can pre-program on effects that might take up more space than your normal concert would allow for, or you can just do cool things with samples. You can, I don't know, what you might want to do. If you set things to 130 and you want to record a real sidechain effect kind of thing, you can do that with sampling. But today we're just going to be working on this bright pad sound. And if you hear, the reverb tail kind of goes out to here, which is why I have this extended out here, and I'm going to bounce it out to 5.2. It's bar 6, beat 3, I guess. I don't know. But I want the reverb tail there because when I release it, that's what's going to sort of play. So let's go here and let's just bounce it up. So I'm going to be doing wave. Try and go for as high as you can, obviously. I'm not looking into the 192,000 or whatever, but so 48,000, this ends where I want it to. We're just going to bounce it out to the desktop. And we'll just call it NWB. Actually, let's make a new folder for it. NWB. This is a G2 note and velocity 3. Now, I'm actually going to be changing this slightly and bouncing out a couple of these in terms of velocity. That's one other thing that I like about sampling, is that with sampling you can achieve different feelings with your samples. So bring this down here. So this is going to be the lowest velocity setting. As you can see, I turned down the cutoff as much as possible. Or, well, I don't know. It sounds good to me at around 509 with the low cutoff. But anyways, one thing that you might want to notice is that I have these in a very specific order. I have low pass, then channel EQ, then compressor, saturation. I'm a big fan of the signal chain idea for effects. If you don't know, MainStage and Logic actually have a signal chain. It goes from top to bottom. So anything at the top will be put through to the bottom. So if I had put the low pass at the bottom, it would effectively cancel out any shimmer that I wanted, any high end from the delay, the saturation, the overtones that I'd be getting from that. So you really should be mindful when you're doing stuff to really consider your signal chain. And I have this channel EQ here more so for the higher cutoff for the low pass. But in any case, And I always like to put channel EQ and then compressor first, because those sort of really define your sound, to me at least. And then other things, you can add a compressor to the end if you want, but alright, so we actually are done with Logic, so let's save and quit. Always save, Jesus saves. So now right here we have NWB. We're going to open up main stage, start a new concert. All right. So fresh concert, gonna delete this, do our own thing. So new patch, I just pressed the add new patch button. Now channel strips, gonna add a new channel strip. Make sure it's an instrument. And here we are down to EXS24 sampler. All right, now this is the front end kind of the sampler. This is going to be what we're going to do after we've imported the samples, but for now, let's go into Edit. If you didn't know what that is, that's right next to Options, and we're just going to click and drag. This is the folder with all the samples in it, and we're just going to drag it in here. Now, if you drag in, let me just show you this. If you click and drag them all like this, you'll actually get some different dialogue, which asks you 3 different ways that you can build the map. I like to auto map when I'm doing one of the one type of sound. If you have more than one, say you have one for each semitone, 88 keys or whatever, then you'd probably want to do contiguous zones and have the zone width as 1, which that can lend you a greater depth when it comes to the sound, and it's more accurate. But when we're talking about synthesis in the way that we're going to do it, AutoMap works just as well. So, all right, so as you can see, we had imported it all. They're all on the key of G2, and that's kind of important because because what happens is it automatically does pitch for playback. What that means, if you don't know, is that depending on where it's at, EXS24 warps the sound or the pitch, and that lends itself to a few implications. So I'm going to turn on the recording so that I can show you this. So right now, if I pressed anything, if I played any key, oh whoops, that's from last night. Okay. Well, hopefully that didn't change anything too drastically. All right, so here we go. So now if I played anything, it'll actually have different pitches and stuff, and that's one great thing about this. Unfortunately, though, the higher you go, the faster the sample is played through, because that's what happens when you warp a sample. Now, what we're going to do to combat that is we're actually going to turn on this loop section, and we're going to loop these. So I don't remember exactly what I did. You can control, or you can shift and click to select all of them, and then and it'll affect all of them. So I advise that as a good practice. Yeah. So this, if I play this now, and I'm going to, it's going to be play for a couple of seconds. Now it's going to play, and it's going to loop at a certain point. So let's see if we can hear the loop point. Yeah, it's kind of gross sounding. So to get around that, we're going to go over here to crossfade. And if I had done this in a way that was more, if I had worked with the sound a bit more, I might have been able to get a better sound. Let's try this actually. Nope, you can still hear the pop pretty audibly. So what we're going to do is, that's just simply a matter of, I mean, when you're working with two synths, multiple voices, and it just, things are going all over the place. So this crossfade will sort of blend them together, the end and the start points. So, and I think the max you can do is 9,999 units. I know they're not milliseconds. Oh, maybe they are. These ones aren't. These are something else. But so I'm gonna crossfade. And that's actually not that bad. I don't think you're going to be holding out a bright pad on the same notes for however long that is, so I'm not super worried about that. And that's one of the things that I didn't mention before, is having a long sample kind of helps with this, because it gives you more room to pick and choose your samples start and end points. So, all right. Let's see. Actually, I don't know. I had this sounding good at a different time. One of the times I had this sounding good. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that you can mess around with here. You can do stuff with coarse or fine. You can do some makeshift unison with your things. One thing, as I mentioned before, just to affect the feel, I usually do velocity sensitive layers. And so this I have as V1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the high. This is sort of like setting your key layers, except not really. It's setting velocity layers. And so anytime that you do any keys within these ranges, it will trigger. Now, if you don't have a certain velocity mapped, then it will not trigger. So make sure that you have as many as you want. And I'm just using the mouse to do these, but you could really just click and drag. You can click and drag, or you can, that's probably faster. If I screw this one up, I'll do that next time, but hopefully that doesn't happen. And over here you have reverse and one shot. One shot will just play the sample through completely. So obviously it doesn't work with loop. Same thing with reverse, unfortunately. And then you have some other stuff over here. Audio file tail. That's a cool concept, usually used for things more organic in nature, like a piano. It might have some part of the mechanical aspects in it. But anyway, so we're going to save this. And we're going to let's just actually exit, save in here. It's bringing me to this, which I don't want it to. So let's actually go to, have we saved in here? No, we haven't yet. Let's save the concert file. And I want to save it as example. Sorry. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have copy EXS instruments into concert. And you'll see why in a second. All right, so now we're going to do, this is how you would save. Oh, that's not what I wanted. All right, just a little bit of technical difficulty here. All right, and we're back. So this is working fine. I have this saved. This sounds like it's supposed to. What we're going to do, though, is this instrument, I guess, is saved to this concert, but it's not saved to the actual sampler instruments folder, so that's good, because I'll show you how to move it from the concert into the sampler instruments folder later. Now we're going to work on this sound within the context of the front end of the sampler. So first, as you saw me, I was just editing some volume things, just turn it up a little bit. I have 64 voices enabled. I'm going to turn on unison. Turned on the filter, made it a little fat, and I'm actually going to turn this down to about 40%. Now it's starting to get nice, and we've got energy, we've got, it's sounding more like a pad that you'd probably want to use during your altar call or something. This we're going to leave in. I'm just going to have it turned down a little bit. But now I'm going to show you, now that we've turned on the filter and we have everything else, I'm going to show you how to modulate the cutoff wheel. So this is your destination. These are all the things that you can modulate. So we're going to pick filter cutoff. This is your source, and this is what modulates it. So we're going to pick control 1, which is, its default is the mod wheel. So and turn it up to about 50%. Yeah. And then, so this is the strength of the modulation. So if we had this at 0, this modulation wouldn't do anything, but it does it'll go up about 50%. So as you can tell, I'm pretty much the king of the musical typing. Now what we're going to do, I just made this a little bit slower to get this pitch shifting thing kind of a lot more subtle. But anyways, now we're just going to turn this up. I like my pads a little bit slow attack. Cool. The attack is there. Bring this up a little bit. Don't need a whole lot. And the release is really where it's going to sound more like a pad. So cool. I'm actually going to turn this down now. It's a bit much on the top section. This is your velocity sensitivity for attack. So I'm just changing the feel sort of this. And I'm actually going to do another thing. I don't know how much you guys would want to do this, but for some of my stuff, I like the feeling of playing harder. So I'm actually going to turn this up. It's a little bit much, actually. And then what I'm saying is, essentially, I want the cutoff to be modulated also by velocity. So if I play harder, then it'll be a little bit, louder and such. So, and then this, I'm actually going to show you. When I move over the mod wheel, I don't want it to be, I don't want it to necessarily increase in volume, which is what happens a lot of times. I'm just going to turn this down to about 47%. And then the volume for velocity. And what I'm going to do, since like I said, this is the strength of the modulation. When you put it downward, you're sort of inverting it. So it's saying you want the volume to decrease by a certain amount. This is actually pretty long, so I'll just shorten that a little bit. So now we have this pretty cool sound. New bright white. And I'm going to save that. What I did is I just pressed, I used these command keys, or you can just do that and save as patch. We're going to go and patch this folder. New bright white, cool. Now, how would you get this into a different concert, though? I have it saved in this particular concert, which is how a lot of people do this for multi-tracks or whatever, is they'll have it in a concert because it's nice and it's all packaged up and stuff, but how do you get that from one concert to your personal library? Well, what you do is you go back into the back end of your sampler, and you are going to hit Instrument and Export Sampler Instrument and Sample Files. So we're going to do that. We're going to do that to our desktop, and NWB2. Now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to back out of this and open up a new concert. Now, okay, thank you. Now, here on the desktop, we see we have these two new things. We have Sampler Instruments and we have NWB2. We're going to go into your hard drive, and if you have a music favorite shortcut over here, then go there, or go through your users to get to the music. And for the first part, it's pretty simple. We're going to go to Audio Music Apps, where it says Sampler Instruments. I'm just going to click that. This is the one that we had generated for us, so we're just going to click and drag, and boom, you can throw this out. Now for the second part, it's a little harder, but essentially what you're going to do is you can leave this on the desktop. I like to have my samples arranged though, so I have them in music stuff and samples. And you can just drag that in here. Alright, so now we're gonna delete that and go in here, EXS24 like we did before. Now we're going to open this, and we're going to open nwb2.exs, and immediately you have all of these all of the samples in here already. This isn't edited because this over here has nothing to do with the sampler instrument. The sampler instrument simply tells the computer what samples it's going to play and this kind of stuff, if it's pitched, if it's velocity sensitive, what loop it's at. So in order to get this setting, we're going to go back to our user patches. We're going to pick New Bright White. We saved it under that. And now we go in here, open, and here we go. So now we have all of the settings that we had before right here in our own concert. We don't have to worry about going too excessively into the back end of the main stage concert. You can do that too if you want to, but this is really just the simplest way. Just go into your EXS24, export it, drag the files into their appropriate spots, and then get back in, open up that sampler instrument, and you should be good to go. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed it. I like this sound, so I think I'm going to put this up into the archives. Hope you guys enjoyed it too. Hope you learned something. Peace.